I've always been a light sleeper. Military training does that to you, teaches you to wake at the slightest sound, the smallest disturbance in your environment. So when Lena's side of the bed stayed cold at 2 in the morning, I was already awake, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster like sheep. My name's Dean Harlow. I'm 38 years old, work night security at a riverside warehouse, and apparently, I'm the kind of guy whose wife thinks he's too stupid to notice when she's screwing her boss. The text came at 2:47 a.m. I watched the phone light up on her nightstand, close enough for me to read without moving. Don't wait up. I typed back on my own phone. Hope you and he have fun. 10 minutes later, our front door slammed open hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. Lena burst into the bedroom, breathless, her coat inside out, one earring missing. Her perfectly styled blonde hair looked like she'd been in a wind tunnel. I didn't move from the bed, just looked at her with what I hoped was my best neutral expression. Didn't know the girls' night had a 100-meter dash event, I said. She froze. Actually froze, like a deer in headlights, her hand still on the doorframe. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. I could see her brain working overtime, trying to figure out what I knew, what I'd seen, what she could salvage from this moment. Dean, save it. I sat up slowly, deliberately. Your phone's been buzzing all night. Caleb with a briefcase emoji. Real subtle, Lena. The color drained from her face. You went through my phone? Didn't have to. You left it unlocked on the counter. I was getting water, saw the messages. That was a lie. I'd known her passcode for months. Her mother's birthday, predictable as hell. 6 months, Lena? 6 months you've been meeting him at that condo complex on Riverside? She tried to recover, shifting to offense like she always did when cornered. You're tracking me? That's insane, Dean. That's controlling and... Mr. Holtz suggested the GPS tracker. You remember Mr. Holtz? Our neighbor? The retired private investigator who's seen more cheating spouses than a divorce lawyer? I swung my legs out of bed, stood up. I'm not a big guy, 5'10", lean from years of physical work, but I saw her take a step back. He installed it 3 weeks ago when you said you were at your mother's. You were at the Riverside Luxury Apartments, Unit 347, Caleb Stratton's love nest. Lena's face went from pale to red. You had no right? I had every right. I'm your husband. Or did you forget that part when you were letting your married boss? I stopped myself, took a breath. Getting angry wouldn't help. Anger made you sloppy, and I needed to be sharp. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit down, and we're going to have a conversation about how this plays out. I'm not doing anything until you... I picked up her phone from where she'd dropped it on the dresser, held it up. I can forward every message to his wife, to your HR department, to your mother, or we can talk like adults. She sat down on the edge of the bed, hard. Her hands were shaking. That's better, I said. I pocketed her phone and keys. Let's have a little chat. The look on her face, that mixture of fear and calculation, told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't sorry. She was just sorry she'd been caught. And that's when I decided, if Lena wanted to play games, I'd show her how a night watchman keeps score. My man cave in the basement had always been my sanctuary. Lena called it my dungeon, said it smelled like motor oil and old coffee. She wasn't wrong. The space was mine. Workbench along one wall, mini fridge stocked with beer, my old military footlocker serving as a coffee table, and a decent sound system I'd built myself from salvaged parts. Now it was mission control. I'd spent the 3 days since our chat going through everything. Lena's phone had been a goldmine. Not just messages to Caleb, though there were plenty of those, complete with photos I really could have lived without seeing, but conversations with her best friend Jessie that made my anger flare. Dean's so predictable, one message read. Works nights, sleeps days, never questions anything. It's like being married to a very boring guard dog. Another, Caleb says I deserve better, someone with ambition, someone who doesn't smell like a warehouse. Jesse's responses were equally charming. You've given him 10 years, you've earned this. Live your life, girl. I photographed everything, backed it up 3 times. Then I called Frankie. Frankie Delacroix was my oldest friend, a mountain of a man who'd done 2 years in Attica for aggravated assault, a bar fight that got out of hand. Now, he worked as a bouncer at the Iron Lantern, the local blue-collar pub where the beer was cheap and the jukebox still played actual CDs. He was also the most loyal person I'd ever met. You sound like you're planning something, Frankie said when he answered. It was noon. He'd be up despite working until 3 a.m. Tell me it involves that cheating wife of yours getting what she deserves. The Iron Lantern. 1 hour. Bring your thinking cap. I don't own a thinking cap. Bring your threatening face, then. He laughed, a sound like rolling thunder. That I got plenty of. The Iron Lantern smelled like spilled beer and fried food, a combination that should have been disgusting, but somehow felt like home. Frankie was already there, occupying a corner booth that gave him a clear view of both entrances. Old habits from prison, he'd told me once. I slid in across from him and pushed my phone across the table. Read. He scrolled through the screenshots, his expression darkening with each swipe. This Caleb guy, he's her boss? Marketing director, makes about twice what I do, drives a BMW, married with 2 kids. And she's been seeing him for 6 months. Frankie set the phone down carefully, like it might explode. What do you want to do about it? I want him scared. I want her humiliated. And I want everyone who helped her lie to me to feel it. I leaned back, letting the cracked vinyl of the booth press against my shoulders. But I'm not going to jail for this. No violence. Nothing that crosses legal lines. Frankie grinned, showing the gap where he'd lost a tooth in that bar fight. You want psychological warfare? Exactly. I like it. Where do we start? Caleb's got a routine. Every Thursday night he tells his wife he's working late. Instead, he meets Lena at that condo. They order takeout from the same Chinese place, drink wine, do their thing. He leaves around midnight. You've been watching. Mr. Holtz has been watching. Turns out retirement is boring for an ex-PI. He's been taking notes like it's a stakeout. I pulled out a small notebook. Holtz's spidery handwriting filled the pages. Last Thursday, Caleb left at 11:47 p.m., drove straight home, stopped at a 24-hour convenience store first, bought mints and air freshener. Frankie snorted. Classy. Here's the thing. Lena thinks I don't know about Thursday nights. She tells me she's got late meetings. So this Thursday, I'm going to that condo building, and you're going to have a conversation with Caleb. What kind of conversation? The kind where you explain that married women are off limits. The kind where he understands that his comfortable little life can get very uncomfortable, very quickly. I met his eyes. No hitting, just words, but make them count. Frankie cracked his knuckles. I can do words. That's when Olivia walked in. I almost didn't recognize her. Olivia Chen worked with Lena at the marketing firm, but I'd only met her a handful of times at company events. She was small, sharp-featured, always dressed like she was heading to a fashion shoot. Now she looked nervous, glancing around the bar like she expected someone to jump out at her. She spotted me and headed straight for our booth. Dean Harlow? She asked. That's me. I need to talk to you about Lena. She glanced at Frankie, hesitated. He's with me, I said. Whatever you've got to say, you can say it in front of him. She slid into the booth next to me, keeping her voice low. I heard rumors about Lena and Caleb. I wasn't sure if you knew. I know. Good, because I'm tired of watching her get away with everything. Olivia's hands clenched on the table. She's been throwing me under the bus at work for months, taking credit for my campaigns, blaming me when things go wrong, and the whole time, she's been sleeping with our boss to secure her position. Why tell me this? Because I want to help you take her down. Olivia's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. And because I have access to the company's internal email system, If you wanted to say, send an anonymous message to the entire marketing department about their affair, I could make that happen. Frankie whistled low. I like her. What do you want in return? I asked. Her job. Olivia didn't even blink. When this blows up, someone's going to have to step into her role. I've been there longer, I've got better numbers, and I'm not sleeping with the boss. It should be me. I considered it. Using Olivia was risky. She had her own agenda, and that made her unpredictable. But she also had access I didn't have, and a motivation to see this through. Thursday night, I said. After Caleb leaves the condo, send an email to the whole department. Include screenshots of their messages if you can get them. I can get them. Lena's computer at work is logged into her personal iCloud. She's been sloppy. Olivia stood up. One more thing. Jessie in HR, she knows about the affair. She's been covering for Lena, rearranging schedules so they can meet up. Good to know, I said. After she left, Frankie leaned back and crossed his arms. You're building an army. I'm building a case. There's a difference. And when it all comes crashing down, then I'll be standing in the rubble with a smile on my face. Thursday night arrived with the kind of cold rain that made everything miserable. Perfect weather for ruining lives. I parked 3 blocks from the Riverside luxury apartments and walked, hood up, hands in my pockets. Mr. Holtz had given me the security code for the building. One of the residents was an old friend of his, apparently, and I slipped inside without issue. The hallway on the 3rd floor was carpeted in tasteful beige, lit by fake candle sconces that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Unit 347 was at the end, and I could hear music playing inside, something jazzy and pretentious. I didn't knock, just stood there in the stairwell across from the elevator, waiting. At 11:52 p.m. the door opened. Caleb Stratton stepped out, adjusting his tie. He was exactly what I'd expected, tall, well-dressed, the kind of guy who probably used product in his hair. He had that casual confidence of someone who'd never really faced consequences. That was about to change. I let him get to the elevator before I moved. Took the stairs down, fast and quiet, and reached the parking garage just as he was climbing into his BMW. Frankie was waiting by the exit, leaning against a concrete pillar like he'd been there all night. When Caleb's car approached, Frankie stepped into the path, one hand raised. Caleb stopped, rolled down his window. "Can I help you?" Frankie walked over, slow and deliberate, leaned down so he was eye level with Caleb. "You Caleb Stratton?" "Who's asking?" "A concerned citizen. See, I heard you like married women. That true?" Caleb's face went pale. "I don't know what you're—" "Lena Harlow. Ring a bell?" Frankie's voice was conversational, almost friendly. "Pretty blonde, works for you, married to a guy named Dean. You need to step away from my car." "Or what? You'll call the cops? Tell them what exactly? That some guy asked you a question in a parking garage?" Frankie smiled. "Here's the thing, Caleb. Dean's a friend of mine. Good guy, works hard, treats people right, and you've been screwing his wife for 6 months. I don't have to listen to this." "Yeah, you do. Because if you don't, I'm going to make sure your wife gets a very detailed email about where you spend your Thursday nights, with photos and timestamps, and maybe a few screenshots of the things you've been texting Lena." Frankie straightened up. "So you're going to sit there and listen?" Caleb sat there and listened. "You're going to end it with Lena. Tonight. You're going to send her a message saying it's over, that you made a mistake, that you're recommitting to your marriage. And then you're going to stay the hell away from her." Frankie tapped the hood of the BMW. "If I hear you've contacted her again, if I hear you've so much as looked at her in a meeting, I'm going to pay your wife a visit. Understood?" Caleb nodded, his hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. "Good talk," Frankie said, and stepped aside. The BMW peeled out of the garage fast enough to leave rubber on the concrete. I stepped out from behind a van, and Frankie and I bumped fists. "Think he'll do it?" I asked. "He's a coward. Yeah, he'll do it." Frankie pulled out his phone, checked the time. And right about now, my phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Email sent. Attached screenshots, company-wide. Enjoy the show. I looked up at the third floor, where lights still glowed in Unit 347. Somewhere up there, Lena's phone was probably exploding with messages. Her career, her reputation, her carefully constructed lies, all of it unraveling in real time. "Come on," I said to Frankie. "Let's get a drink. I want to be home when she comes crawling back." We were 3 beers deep at the Iron Lantern when my phone rang. Lena. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again. Finally, I answered. "Yeah?" "Dean." Her voice was ragged, like she'd been crying. "Dean, something terrible happened. Someone sent an email about me and Caleb to everyone at work. Everyone. My mother called. Jessie won't answer my calls. I don't know what to do." "Sounds rough," I said. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say, Lena? That I'm sorry your affair got exposed? That I feel bad for you?" I took a sip of beer. "You made your choices. Now you get to live with them." "You did this." Her voice turned sharp, accusatory. "You sent that email." "Prove it." Silence on the other end. Then, "I'm coming home. We need to talk." "Door's unlocked," I said, and hung up. Frankie raised his glass. "To the beginning of the end." "To revenge," I corrected, and we drank to that. The Lantern Festival was a big deal in our town. Every year, the first weekend of October, Main Street shut down, and the whole community came out for food vendors, craft booths, and the lighting ceremony where hundreds of paper lanterns floated up into the night sky. It was picturesque and wholesome, and exactly the kind of event where reputations were made or destroyed. I'd been planning this for 2 weeks. Lena had moved into a cheap rental across town after the email incident. She'd been suspended from work pending an HR investigation. Apparently, sleeping with your married boss violated several company policies. Caleb had been suspended too, and according to Olivia, his wife had filed for divorce. But Lena wasn't done fighting. She'd been making the rounds, trying to control the narrative, painting herself as the victim of a vindictive husband who couldn't handle her success. Some people bought it. Her mother, predictably, was leading the charge, telling anyone who'd listen that I'd always been jealous of Lena's career. So I decided it was time for a public reckoning. The festival was crowded, the smell of fried dough and apple cider thick in the air. I spotted Lena near the craft booths, talking to a group of women from her yoga class. She looked tired, her usual polish dimmed, but she was smiling, playing the part of the wronged woman with practiced ease. I'd invited Maggie to meet me there. Maggie Torres ran the local supermarket, a family business she'd inherited from her father. We'd dated briefly in high school, stayed friends after. She was smart, funny, and had never quite forgiven Lena for the way she'd treated me over the years, the subtle put-downs, the casual dismissals. "You sure about this?" Maggie asked as we walked through the crowd. She was wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. "Positive," I said. "Lena's been telling people I'm the bad guy. Time to set the record straight." "And you want me to do it?" "I want you to accidentally let something slip to Mrs. Danvers, Lena's mother. She's the town gossip. If she hears it from you, it'll spread faster than wildfire." Maggie grinned. "You're devious. I like it." We found Mrs. Danvers at the bake sale, holding court with a cluster of older women. She was a formidable presence, tall, silver-haired, with the kind of judgmental stare that could wilt flowers. "Mrs. Danvers," Maggie said warmly, approaching with a tray of cookies. "These are on the house. Your daughter used to love our snickerdoodles." Mrs. Danvers' expression soured. "I'm not sure Lena has much of an appetite these days, given everything that's happened." "It's such a shame," Maggie said, shaking her head. "I mean, I understand marriage is hard, but 6 months, with her boss, and then trying to blame Dean for exposing it." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. Between you and me, I always thought Lena could do better than sneaking around. If she was unhappy, she should have just left. The women around Mrs. Danvers leaned in, hungry for details. What exactly are you implying? Mrs. Danvers demanded. I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Maggie met her gaze steadily. Dean's a good guy. He didn't deserve to be humiliated like that. And now Lena's trying to make him look like the villain? That's not right. Mrs. Danvers' face turned an impressive shade of red. How dare you? I dare because it's true. Maggie set the tray down. Enjoy the cookies. As we walked away, I heard Mrs. Danvers start talking in urgent, angry tones to the women around her. The gossip mill had just been fed premium fuel. That was perfect, I said. I know, Maggie replied. Now what? Now we wait for Caleb to show up. He arrived an hour later, looking harried and uncomfortable in a white suit that was definitely too formal for a small-town festival. I spotted him near the beer garden, scanning the crowd, probably looking for Lena. I grabbed a beer and positioned myself in his path. The collision was perfectly timed. Beer sloshed all over his pristine white jacket, soaking into the fabric. Oh man, I'm so sorry, I said, loud enough for people nearby to turn and look. Let me help you with that. Caleb's face went from shock to recognition to fury in about 3 seconds. You. Me, I agreed. Small world, huh? You should wash that off before it stains. I leaned in closer, dropping my voice. Like my marriage. Oh wait, that stain's permanent, isn't it? People were watching now, phones coming out. Caleb realized it too. He backed up, trying to salvage some dignity. You're pathetic, he hissed. Maybe, but I'm not the one who got suspended for sleeping with an employee. How's your wife, by the way? I heard she's taking you to the cleaners in the divorce. I smiled. Karma's a bastard, Caleb, but I guess you already knew that. He turned and practically ran through the crowd. Laughter followed him. Someone shouted, "Nice suit," and the laughter got louder. I finished my beer and tossed the cup in a recycling bin. Maggie appeared at my elbow. You're enjoying this way too much, she said. You're absolutely right, I agreed. The lantern lighting ceremony was scheduled for sunset. The whole town gathered in the square, families with children, couples holding hands, elderly folks in lawn chairs. It was beautiful and communal and exactly the kind of moment Lena would have loved before she became the town pariah. I saw her standing on the edge of the crowd, alone. Her mother had apparently left after Maggie's revelation. Jessie was nowhere to be seen. The friends who'd encouraged her affair had all vanished now that there were consequences. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the messages, the lies, the way she'd laughed about me with her lover and her friends. The moment passed. As the first lanterns rose into the darkening sky, I turned and walked back to my truck. Maggie caught up with me in the parking lot. You heading home? She asked. Yeah, long day. Dean. She touched my arm. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But don't let this consume you. Don't let her turn you into someone you're not. I'm not, I said. I'm just making sure she faces consequences for once in her life. There's a difference. Is there? I didn't have an answer for that. When I got home, I found Lena's car in the driveway. She was sitting on the porch steps, waiting. We need to talk, she said as I approached. I'm listening. I'm leaving town, moving to the city. I can't stay here anymore, not after... She gestured vaguely. All of this? Okay? That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Lena? That I'll miss you? That I hope things work out? I sat down on the steps, keeping distance between us. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. You destroyed my life, Dean. My job, my reputation, my relationships. You took everything from me. No, I said quietly. You did that yourself. I just made sure people knew the truth. She stood up, and I saw tears on her face. Real ones, I thought. Maybe the first genuine emotion she'd shown in months. "I loved you," she said. "Once. I really did." "I know, I loved you too." I met her eyes. "But love isn't enough when there's no respect. And you never respected me, Lena. I was just convenient, safe, someone to come home to while you chased whatever made you feel important. That's not fair. Life's not fair. But it is balanced. You wanted excitement, success, someone who made you feel special. You got it. And now you get to deal with what comes after." She left without another word. I watched her drive away, tail lights disappearing into the night, and felt something loosen in my chest. Not quite relief, not quite satisfaction, just closure. I went inside, poured myself a whiskey, and sat in my man cave with the lights off. Tomorrow, I'd go back to work. Life would continue. But tonight, I let myself feel the weight of everything that had happened. My phone buzzed. A text from Frankie. "Heard about the festival. You okay?" I typed back, "Yeah, it's done." "Good. Drinks tomorrow?" "Always." I set the phone aside and closed my eyes. The worst was over. Or so I thought. The warehouse where I worked nights sat on the edge of the river, a sprawling concrete building that smelled like cardboard and diesel fuel. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady work, and after 10 years, I'd worked my way up to night supervisor. I had a small office, a decent paycheck, and the kind of respect that came from showing up and doing your job right. Caleb showing up there was a mistake. His last mistake, as it turned out. It was a Tuesday night, 2 weeks after the festival. I was doing my rounds, checking locks and making notes on my clipboard, when I spotted an unfamiliar car in the visitor parking lot. The BMW. I recognized it immediately. I called Frankie. "How fast can you get to the warehouse?" 20 minutes. What's going on?" "Caleb's here. I think he's looking for trouble." "On my way." I found Caleb near the loading docks trying to look casual and failing miserably. He was dressed down, jeans and a jacket, but he still looked like he didn't belong here. Too clean. Too soft. "Lost?" I called out. He turned, and I saw something dangerous in his expression. Desperation, maybe. Or just stupidity. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't. You need to leave before I call the cops for trespassing." "You ruined my life, Dean. My wife left me. I'm probably going to lose my job, all because you couldn't handle your wife finding someone better." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Is that what you think happened? That Lena upgraded?" I walked closer, keeping my hands visible, non-threatening. "Let me tell you what really happened, Caleb. You're a middle-aged cliché who thought sleeping with an employee made you special. You risked your marriage, your career, your reputation for what? 6 months of mediocre hotel encounters and the ego boost of having a younger woman pay attention to you?" His face flushed. "You don't know anything about—" "I know you're standing in my workplace at midnight trying to intimidate me. I know you're desperate and scared and looking for someone to blame." I stopped about 10 feet away. "But here's the thing. I didn't ruin your life. You did. Every choice that led you here, that was you. You sent that email. You told your thug friend to threaten me. Prove it." He lunged at me then, which was stupid for several reasons. First, I'd been expecting it. Second, I had military training and 10 years of warehouse work that kept me strong and fast. Third, we were standing on a loading dock with plenty of hard surfaces to hurt yourself on. I sidestepped, let his momentum carry him past me, and watched him slam into a stack of pallets. He went down hard, groaning. "Stay down," I said. "This doesn't have to get worse." But he was already getting up, and I saw something in his hand. A knife. Not a big one, just a folding blade, but enough to make this serious. "Really?" I said. "You're going to stab me? In a warehouse with security cameras everywhere?" He looked up, seemed to notice the cameras for the first time, hesitated. That's when Frankie arrived. The loading dock door rolled up with a grinding metallic sound, and Frankie stepped through, taking in the scene, me standing calm, Caleb on the ground with a knife, the general air of violence about to happen. "Put the knife down," Frankie said. His voice was flat, professional. This wasn't his first time dealing with someone armed and stupid. "This is between me and him," Caleb said, but his voice shook. "Not anymore." Frankie walked forward slowly. "You've got two choices. You can put the knife down, walk away, and we all forget this happened. Or you can try to use that knife, and I'll make sure you regret it for the rest of your considerably shorter life." The loading dock lights cast harsh shadows, making Frankie look even more imposing than usual. Caleb looked between us, seemed to realize how badly he'd miscalculated, and dropped the knife. "Smart choice," I said. I picked up the knife, folded it, pocketed it. "Now get out, and if I ever see you again, I'm filing a police report for attempted assault. The cameras caught everything." Caleb scrambled to his feet and ran. His BMW peeled out of the parking lot, tires squealing. Frankie and I stood in silence for a moment. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, thanks for the backup." "That's what friends do." He looked at the cameras. "You really have footage?" "Every angle. I wasn't bluffing about that." "Good, keep it, just in case he's dumb enough to try something else." We went to my office, and I poured us both coffee from the ancient machine I kept on my desk. It tasted like burnt rubber, but it was hot and caffeinated, and that's what mattered. "This isn't over," Frankie said. "Guys like Caleb, when they get desperate, they do stupid things." "I know, but what else can he do? He's already lost his job, his wife, his reputation. What's left? Revenge. Same thing you're after." I considered that. "Maybe, but I'm smarter than him." "Let's hope so." The next day, I got a call from Jessie, Lena's friend from HR, the one who'd been covering for the affair. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. "Dean," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. "I think we should meet. I have some information you might find interesting." "What kind of information?" "The kind that could make your divorce very expensive for Lena, but I need something in return." "I'm listening." We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. Jessie looked nervous, constantly glancing at the door like she expected someone to burst in. "Lena's planning to file for divorce," she said without preamble. "She's going to claim you were abusive, controlling, that you sabotaged her career out of jealousy." "That's a lie." "I know. But she's got a lawyer who thinks they can make it stick. She's going to go after your pension, the house, everything." Jessie leaned forward. "I have emails where she admits the abuse claims are fake, where she and Caleb planned how to squeeze you in the divorce." "Why would you give those to me?" "You're her friend." "Was her friend." Past tense. Jessie's expression hardened. "She threw me under the bus at work. Told HR I knew about the affair and didn't report it. I got fired, Dean. After 7 years with that company, I got fired because Lena needed a scapegoat. So this is revenge. This is survival. I need a reference for my next job, and I need Lena to stop bad-mouthing me around town." She pushed a flash drive across the table. "Everything's on here. Emails, texts, even a recording of her and Caleb talking about the divorce strategy. You give me a written statement saying I tried to warn you about the affair, that I was a good employee who got caught in a bad situation, and it's yours." I picked up the flash drive, turned it over in my hands. "Deal, but I want something else too." "What?" "I want you to tell everyone the truth. That Lena wasn't a victim. That she planned this. That she used people. That she's trying to destroy me in the divorce out of spite." Jessie hesitated, then nodded. "I can do that, but you have to promise me something. When this is over, when Lena's gone and everything's settled, you let it go. Don't become the kind of person who can't move on." "I'm not making any promises." "Then we don't have a deal." I thought about it. About what I'd already done, what I was planning to do. about the line between justice and obsession. Fine, I said. When it's over, I let it go. We shook on it. That night, I went through the files on the flash drive. Jesse hadn't been exaggerating. The emails were damning. Lena and Caleb discussing how to hide assets, how to make me look bad, how to maximize what she could get in the divorce. There was even a recording, tinny and distorted but clear enough, of Lena laughing about how I'd never see it coming. "He's so trusting," she said on the recording. "It's almost sad. He actually believes I'm working late." Caleb's voice, "You deserve better than him, someone who appreciates you." "I know. And once the divorce is final, I'll have half of everything he's worked for. Seems fair, considering I've had to put up with him for 10 years. I listened to it 3 times, each time feeling something cold and hard settle deeper in my chest. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. This was about being treated like a fool, like someone whose feelings and work and life didn't matter. I called my lawyer the next morning. "I need to file for divorce," I said, "and I need to do it first before she can." "Do you have grounds?" "Adultery, and I have evidence. Lots of evidence." My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Vance who'd handled my parents' estate, listened to everything, reviewed the files, listened to the recording. "This is good," she said. "Really good. We can not only defend against her claims, we can go on the offensive. Prove she was planning to defraud you in the divorce, that her abuse allegations are false. You might even be able to get her to pay your legal fees." "How long will it take?" "Months, probably, but with this evidence, you'll win." "Then let's do it." The papers were served to Lena 3 days later. According to Patricia, she'd been extremely upset when she received them. That was putting it mildly, based on the 27 missed calls and 16 increasingly unhinged voicemails she left me. I didn't call her back, just forwarded everything to Patricia and blocked Lena's number. It was time to end this. The deposition was scheduled for a Thursday morning at Patricia's office. Lena arrived with her lawyer, a slick-looking guy in an expensive suit, who probably charged by the syllable. She looked different. Thinner, harder somehow, like the polish had been stripped away to reveal something brittle underneath. We sat across from each other in Patricia's conference room, and I watched her try to maintain her composure as Patricia laid out our evidence. The emails, the texts, the recording. "Your client planned to commit fraud," Patricia said to Lena's lawyer. "She conspired with her lover to hide assets and make false abuse allegations. We have everything documented." Lena's lawyer looked at the files, then at Lena. "Did you say these things?" "It was taken out of context," Lena said quickly. "I was upset. I was venting. I didn't mean—" "It's a recording," I said. "Your exact words. No context needed." Her lawyer set down the files. "I need to speak with my client, privately." They left the room. Patricia and I sat in silence. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Honestly? Empty. I thought I'd feel satisfied, vindicated. But mostly I just feel tired." "That's normal. Divorce is exhausting even when you're winning." "Am I winning?" "Yes. Decisively." Patricia smiled. "When they come back, they're going to offer a settlement. Take it. Get this over with and move on with your life." She was right. When Lena and her lawyer returned, they offered to split assets 50-50, no alimony, no abuse allegations. Clean break. "I want the house," I said, "and my pension stays mine. She can have her car, her personal belongings, and half the savings account. That's it." Lena's lawyer started to object, but Lena cut him off. "Fine. I just want this over." We signed the papers that afternoon. Just like that, 10 years of marriage dissolved into a legal document. As we were leaving, Lena caught my arm. "Dean, I'm sorry, for all of it. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed to say it." I looked at her, this woman I'd loved and built a life with, and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just nothing. "Goodbye, Lena." I said, and walked away. That should have been the end. Clean break, fresh start. Everyone moves on with their lives. But Caleb wasn't done. I got the call from Maggie 2 days after the divorce was finalized. "Dean, you need to get to the supermarket now." "What's wrong?" "Just get here." I found her in her office, door closed, looking shaken. "Caleb was just here. He came through my checkout line, waited until I was alone, and told me to give you a message." "What message?" "He said, 'This isn't over. He took everything from me, and I'm going to return the favor.'" "Dean, I think he's planning something." I called Frankie. "We need to have another conversation with Caleb. Tonight." "What kind of conversation?" "The kind that ends this permanently." We found him at his new apartment, a sad little studio on the wrong side of town. His BMW was gone, probably repossessed. The man who answered the door looked nothing like the confident executive who'd been sleeping with my wife 6 months ago. This Caleb was unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. "What do you want?" he asked. "To talk," I said. "Can we come in?" He looked at Frankie, seemed to realize he didn't have a choice, and stepped aside. The apartment was a disaster. Empty bottles, takeout containers, clothes everywhere. It smelled like depression and desperation. "Nice place," Frankie said. "What do you want?" Caleb repeated. I sat down on his couch, which was probably a mistake given the stains. "I want you to leave me alone. Leave my friends alone. Accept that this is over and move on with your life." "Move on?" Caleb laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "To what? My wife took the kids. I lost my job. I'm living in this shithole and working retail just to make rent. You destroyed everything." "No, you did that. You made the choice to sleep with a married woman. You made the choice to risk everything for an affair. Those were your decisions, Caleb, not mine. You sent that email. You turned everyone against me." I exposed the truth. "There's a difference." I leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay away from me, from Maggie, from everyone connected to me. You're going to rebuild your life somewhere else. And if you ever threaten anyone I care about again, I'll make sure everyone in this town knows you pulled a knife on me at my workplace. I have the security footage. I have witnesses. You'll be lucky if you don't end up in jail." "You can't do that. Watch me." I stood up. "This is your last chance, Caleb. Take it." We left him sitting in his disaster of an apartment. As we walked to Frankie's truck, I felt something shift. Not satisfaction exactly, more like closure. "You think he'll listen?" Frankie asked. "Yeah, he's broken. He just needed to hear it one more time." "And if he doesn't?" "Then we deal with it. But I think we're done." We stopped at the Iron Lantern for a drink. The bar was busy, filled with familiar faces. People who'd known me for years, who'd watched the whole drama unfold, who'd taken sides or stayed neutral or just enjoyed the gossip. Maggie was there, sitting at the bar. She waved us over. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah, it's handled." "Good." She ordered us beers. "So what now? You going to finally relax and live your life?" "That's the plan." "You know," she said, "if you ever want to grab dinner sometime, just as friends. Or maybe not just as friends. I'm flexible." I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in months. Saw the warmth in her eyes, the genuine care. Realized that maybe, just maybe, there was something good waiting on the other side of all this mess. "I'd like that," I said. Frankie raised his glass. "To new beginnings." "To moving on," Maggie added. "To revenge," I said, and knowing when to stop. We drank to that. 3 months later, I got a message from an unknown number. Just a photo. Caleb standing in front of a new apartment in a different city, wearing a work uniform from some chain restaurant. He looked tired but clean. Sober. Like maybe he was actually trying to rebuild. The message that came with it. "You were right. I'm sorry." I deleted it without responding. Some things didn't need acknowledgement. Some apologies came too late to matter. But I kept the photo, tucked it in my desk drawer. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. Lena, I heard through the grapevine, had moved to the city and was working for a small marketing firm. No word on whether she was happy or successful or had learned anything from the experience. I didn't ask. Didn't care. Maggie and I went on that dinner date. Then another, and another. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was comfortable and honest and real in a way my marriage to Lena never had been. Mr. Holtz, my nosy neighbor, stopped me one day as I was getting my mail. Heard you and Maggie are an item now. We're taking it slow. Good for you. You deserve someone who appreciates you. He paused. That business with your ex-wife. That was some impressive work, son. Reminded me of my old cases. Strategic, thorough, ruthless when it needed to be. I just wanted the truth to come out. Sure you did, he smiled. But between you and me, it was more than that. It was about making sure there were consequences, about not letting people get away with treating you like you didn't matter. He clapped me on the shoulder. Nothing wrong with that. Just don't let it consume you. I won't. Good. Because revenge is like whiskey. A little bit can be satisfying. Too much will poison you. I thought about that as I walked back to my house. My house now, fully mine. No shared ownership or memories. Thought about everything I'd done, the people I'd hurt, the satisfaction I'd felt watching it all fall apart. Had I gone too far? Maybe. Probably. But I'd also stood up for myself in a way I never had before. Refused to be the victim, the fool, the guy everyone pitied. And if that made me villainous, if that made me someone who crossed lines most people wouldn't cross, then so be it. I'd learned something important through all of this. Sometimes, the only way to win is to be willing to play dirtier than your opponent. To be smarter, more ruthless, more committed to the outcome. Lena had underestimated me. Thought I'd just accept the betrayal, sign the divorce papers, and disappear quietly. She'd been wrong, and now everyone knew it. I sat on my porch that evening, watching the sunset, drinking a beer. My phone buzzed. A text from Maggie. Movie tomorrow night? I smiled and typed back. Sounds perfect. Life went on. The town moved on to new gossip, new scandals. I went back to work, kept my head down, rebuilt my routine. But sometimes, late at night when I couldn't sleep, I'd think about those 6 months. The planning, the execution, the satisfaction of watching it all unfold exactly as I'd intended. And I'd smile. Because I'd won. Not just the divorce, not just the house, or the money, or the reputation. I'd won the knowledge that I wasn't someone who could be used and discarded without consequence. Lena had taught me that people will take whatever you let them take. Caleb had taught me that cowards will always run when confronted. Jesse had taught me that loyalty is transactional. And I'd taught all of them that underestimating the quiet guy, the boring guy, the night watchman who just wanted to do his job and live his life, was the biggest mistake they could make. The ledger was balanced, the debts were paid, and I could finally close the book on that chapter of my life. But I kept the recordings, the emails, the evidence. Not because I thought I'd need them again, but because they were proof. Proof that I'd stood up for myself. Proof that actions have consequences. Proof that sometimes the good guy doesn't have to finish last. He just has to be willing to play the game better than everyone else. And I'd played it perfectly.